Today on the show, I have someone who has been a legal luminary in his own field and an expert, and someone who has had a very illustrious career over the last couple of decades, Mr. Amitabh Lal. Amitabh, hi, how are you doing?
I'm very good, Ashu. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on this show. It's a privilege.
Great, Amitabh. Thank you so much. I know you're a very busy man, and I believe you have been the general counsel, a director of law or legal for companies, and you work closely with board members, CEOs, and definitely owners of the organization in some places in the past as well. So thank you again. I think your views will be really meaningful and valuable for our listeners.
You're putting a lot of pressure on me, man.
No way. I think the best part is that it definitely helps to people to know who you really are. So, and your profile, of course, is there with the channel. So Amitabh, I really wanted to, on this show, focus on a few things, which is, get onto your personal journey. And this is a sharp and sweet show, so we won't get into too many details. There's just a few questions, and I really appreciate your honest answer. I know I've always seen that you are a very authentic, honest person. That's the best part about you. So what were the triggers that made you choose your legal profession? I mean, in the first place, it's not, everyone thinks about a legal profession on the first go, or a HR profession or a business profession. There's some triggers which go in your mind. So what got you there?
That's a great question, Ashu. And as I think about it, I think, it's going to be quite funny. But, the truth is that this was, this career choice was actually stemming from a failure. This career choice was actually not the first career choice. It was something else. But since that did not happen, then, some prudence at that point of time that I had told me that I should have a backup. And this actually was the backup. It was a backup that I was not seriously at that time considering as a backup. But, when strings of failure happened, then in the last year of my law school, I realized that I'll actually have to, up the game and clear the exam and actually seriously get into the profession. So it was not planned. It was a backup. And I had not anticipated that, 25 plus years after having completed my law, this is where I would be. So, to try and put it succinctly, unplanned journey, didn't know where the start point was, didn't know where it would lead me. And I think that on the way there have been a lot of learnings, huge amount of exposure, and I don't know whether I should take any credit for that. I think it has just happened, and I would count myself as lucky and thankful to a lot of people.
That's really amazing that you said that, because a lot of people would typically think that, given that you today are someone who heads legal counsel for a large business, and you've been on the board of a few companies, it almost seems that you're someone who would have probably thought about it in the first instance. So that's very interesting. On your journey, you said there was a string of failures. So not to get into very specific details about the failures, but what were those turning points for you which made you step out of those failures? Because, today, that's something really important I'd like my listeners to listen to.
So the string of failures that I spoke about largely, and I will be candid enough that I come from a small town, now Jharkhand, but earlier Bihar, where the synonym of success was getting into the civil services. And I came to Delhi right after class 10th, studied. My parents wanted me to go to St. Stephen's College, which was at that point of time actually, you expected that if you get into St. Stephen's College, you will also get into the civil services. And I got into St. Stephen's College, and I was there, and but I couldn't make it to the civil services. So that was the string of failure that I was talking about. You have multiple attempts at that, and I took multiple attempts, and each attempt I, could not get through. So that was it. After that, I wouldn't say that, there were failures, but there were triggers, and there were triggers. For example, when I completed my law, I joined a law firm, and then from a law firm, I switched to working with a senior counsel in the High Court, and from there to the Supreme Court. Then went into my own practice. So there were triggers, for me to keep moving forward, given the worldview that I had as a first generation lawyer. So I wouldn't say that those were, failures, or that I was reacting to failures. I was adapting. I was trying to reinvent all the time, trying to figure out how to make the best of it as a first generation lawyer, staying far away from the comfort of, social moorings and all of that. And so those were the triggers that actually led me to take decisions that I took at that point of time. Again, the decisions were taken with a lot of thinking, but I must confess that it hadn't been on a, it wasn't as if I had planned that, I will reach that stage and then I will try and take those decisions. I just walked into situations, did my best to understand the situation, and also thought of, how I could become better and what I could do if I became better. And then, so those were the, triggers that led me to make changes. Some significant changes that I'd like to talk about was, or would be, an exposure in UK, where I was lucky enough to get onto a scholarship program. And I went to UK in 2000. That changed my worldview. When I came back to India after that scholarship, after a brief stint, personal stint in the US, my worldview had changed. And, in accordance with that changed, worldview, there were certain steps that I took, basically wanting to move from litigation to get into corporate law. And so I went and worked with a law firm. Then I worked with a law firm for a couple of years. And then I realized that I could actually move into an in-house role, work with a company, and the environment at that point of time was conducive, actually quite compelling. And I remember that this was 16 years ago. And Ashutosh, what a coincidence, today we are talking about my journey. And I actually was ushered into, a corporate career by none other than you. You actually, not interviewed me, but you assured me after the interview process was over at Sapient. So, and then from Sapient to Yahoo, and now to another, a very large Indian financial services company, which actually, in retrospect, I would say has been a journey of different industries. Every time I have moved a job, it has been in a different industry. And the challenges have been great, and so has been the learning curve. And I realized that, it is important to have the navigability and also the urge to master the new, rules or intricacies of a new industry, and then, deploy the learnings of a previous industry and, make an impact. So those were some
That's
of the.
actually a very good point, Amitabh. And trust me, I was reminded about exactly how we first came to know each other. But it's been a beautiful, memory. But at the same time, I've seen that you, every time you're moved, and you're not moved a lot. You've been a very stable-minded top executive in the industry, in law, and known globally. And when you moved, you have, moved from tech to financial now, and there's been learning. The other point I'd like to make is that today, there's a certain evolution in the market, right? There's been a certain shift. Job security suddenly taken a lot of precedence for leaders, for mid-career executives alike. And there's this huge hunger to evolve, reinvent, and relearn a few things, because otherwise people are worried that they may be left behind. What would be if you connect that with your journey, what would be those one or two tips or mantras you'd have for, other people who are making their career right now, or who are already senior executives facing such an issue?
I thought about it a lot, Ashu, and I think that the conclusion I came to is that for people with a specialized skill set, in order to have a longish journey, and in order to have an impact beyond their area of specialization, which actually is a sine qua non for successful leadership at higher levels, it is imperative for us, and at least I thought it more in my context, that it was imperative for me to have a T-shaped personality. And a T-shaped corporate personality is something where, on your vertical domain skill set, you actually foist some horizontal skill sets. So
Amazing.
when I looked at my profile, of course, I had been doing law, as a lawyer, both in courts and in corporate law firms. And the journey and the transition to being a lawyer within a company was a huge learning curve. It requires a different kind of mindset and different kind, or totally different a set of skills. But, the fact that this thing, just your vertical domain expertise, I realized wasn't, the source of sustainability in the organization, because there
Hmm.
you are acting with, people from different fields and different departments. And for a lawyer in particular, one had to understand that the organization was not like a law firm. You were part of the whole team in order for the organization to achieve its purpose. Your purpose as a lawyer was not the purpose of the organization. So for example, a law firm would actually lap up the opportunity of getting into litigation or helping a client litigate.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
in a company, the objective is not to litigate. The objective is
Hmm.
to avoid the litigation, right? So because, litigation, unless it is something that you have to really fight for, as a matter of your right, or it's actually questioning your existence, you wouldn't want to do, because it's a business disruption. So, it's a totally different this thing. And there, in order to see what additional roles you could do, or what were the additional areas of impact that you could generate out of your training and out of your 360-degree view of the organization. Because being in this specialized function, you get to see the entire, you have a 360-degree view of the organization. So I figured out, as I was moving on this journey, that if I also developed skills of, let's say, public policy, compliance, a bit of risk management, and then those kind of things, then that would make me, a GC plus kind of person, right? So I'm not just doing contracts. I'm not just doing, advisory work on how to comply with requirements and, risk assessment from purely a legal perspective, but trying to have a larger view that, let's say that something is not working out for the company in that industry, and if it is a problem also for the larger industry, then going on the premise that laws are actually not made to obstruct business, but there may be some gap of understanding between the lawmakers and the, as to how business is done, and the people who actually do the business and, do it in a certain way. There could always be a gap, because it's not really that the people who are doing the business are going there and making the law. So if
Yeah.
it is a case where there is something that needs to be changed, or if there is something where the government or the lawmakers need to understand the internal aspects or dynamics of business, and therefore are in need for feedback, input, etc., for certain changes to be made to a law or a regulation, then that is a very interesting exercise as well. And I came into some of these jobs at very critical times. I came into a large internet company at the time when the Information Technology Act, the internet laws were actually being laid down in the country. Similarly, in the financial services insurance sector, I came in at a point where the law that had been notified in 1938 was actually going in for an overhaul in
Hmm.
2015.
And these are
So
very challenging moments for
absolutely, and then
transformation. Yeah. Hmm.
there is a mental orientation that I had developed because of the thinking that I spoke about, and therefore it was easier for me to embrace, and
So,
not you. Sorry.
Amitabh, sorry to interrupt you, but that is a very interesting point. That and I really like the term when you said, I've kind of, I'll register that actually, and I'll quote you on that one because it's really well said. The T-shape building of a career, and I like the way you, beyond the GC, beyond general counsel, how you build layer of the horizontal layer of because that's where you are a leader who is now not only a legal leader, but you've grown into a business leader in some ways. And that's a huge value you bring to organizations today. Now,
Just to be
I
clear,
think,
Ashutosh,
yes,
teach
yeah,
is not my coinage. It is something that I have read and I have dwelt upon. It is somebody else's coinage, but it is something that I found very compelling.
thanks for that. But thanks for sharing actually, because that's amazing. If I were to look at exactly this point, where you're saying about the horizontal career development people have to build across, the skills they have to acquire, the knowledge they have to acquire to keep their breadth of offering in the career wide enough to be picked up for roles and jobs which could be really interesting, and they don't get kind of limited to what they're doing today. I think it's very interesting that you said that, because in today's time that's very, very pertinent. I mean, people who have narrowed themselves down on a certain skill set, or have kept themselves very narrow within a certain trade, may find that it's very limiting to move around a little bit. And I was talking on one of my earlier shows with a gentleman called Tim Heiting, and he gave some interesting principles. And one of the things which he said, I wanted to kind of cross connect exactly this amazing point which you made, that there is a element of reinvention, there is an element of constant learning which one has to look at, and increasing the breadth of these skills one has to offer, and not be afraid of doing that, because typically people like to slip into the comfort zone and be only where they are. And when economy or business knocks them hard, that's when they go for reaching out for those extra few things and skills and knowledge or experiences, while they can do that even in normal real times. So thanks for sharing that. Um, I have a very interesting, the question to you related to your area, but also for organizations. See, the definition of risk itself has changed, and for global organizations as well as for employees today, and it's rapidly changing now. What would be your thinking and comment around that? Around the how should employers look at it? How should organizations look at risk today? And from a people leader standpoint, because you have a lot of people leadership skills and you've been a mentor as well, how would that be translated to uh, people, executives who are making the career in today's context?
I mean, it's a VUCA world, right? There is so much uncertainty, ambiguity, and uncertainty and those kind of challenges that we face today, that no business is insulated from risk at any point of time. So a business that believes that there is no risk, or that it is in a very safe zone, is deluding itself. And then therefore, at the top level, there is a need to understand the different kinds of risks and to figure out how those risks can be mitigated. I mean, I know a lot of companies are actually, in one of the companies that I worked for, technology companies, they had a team called the Paranoids. So it was with regard only to technical, to detecting technical risks. But the fact is that you have to also be in a state of paranoia, because in today's world you don't know where your competition is coming from. You're not going to be displaced just by a competitor. It could be an entity that did not exist, that you had not even thought of, that will be born today and will displace you tomorrow. That is the truth in the world today.
Very
And
true.
that, and then therefore you have to be totally aware of the current risks, the it is imperative that we are conscious that there could be all kinds of risks, and that as senior leaders, as leaders who actually bring value to the organization, we are not presented with risks only, then will we see it, but we have to anticipate, we have to be paranoid about it. So risk management in today's corporate world, I would think, is a extremely high imperative, and it is important that all senior leaders be aware of this orientation and actually develop skills to be able to understand and navigate through this. And I think that that increases the value of the impact you could bring to the organization, because after all, the ability to face a risk and the ability not to face a risk is actually existential. It defines, or it actually could lead to whether you survive or not.
Very, very rightly said. That's very rightly said. And I think the same applies to career executives, right? Because they have to, I think what applies to companies, they have to be equally very, like you said, leaders about watching their left and right on the new set of challenges which may just come up very speedily and rapidly, or even for that matter, organizations which were nowhere in the background and suddenly they come from a different track and invade your space. So I think that's very well put. Amitabh, what's your definition of inner calling? I know that's a bit of a fuzzy logic question sometimes, and I thought let me just ask you that.
That question, is a deep, profound question. And of late, I have been thinking about, what's my inner calling or what's my purpose. And, I thought of becoming, say, thinking that the inner calling is to be successful or to be happy and to this, that, and the other. But that all of that is not sticking to me. What is sticking to me is to say that the purpose of my life is to be of use to someone or the other. I'm feeling that what gives me gratification in my personal life, in my social life, as also in my professional workspace life, is gratification that I get from creating an impact, a positive impact. And the end result of which is that I have been of use, positive use to someone or the other. And then that is my inner calling.
That's actually very well put. And what I liked, Amitabh, you made it so simple. Finding we often hear the sense of finding a sense of purpose or meaning in what you do. But I think if I simply restate what you said, as long as I'm able to find or add positive value in someone's life and contribute to someone's life either through growth or career mentoring or through being able to give some advice or counsel, I think that's very simply put, but it's very powerful. Recently, someone reached out to me with a very interesting comment, and he said that in his company today, with the rising ambiguity and job insecurity, and this person is actually a senior leader, so someone I've kind of known for a bit, and he said in his company with the increasing ambiguity and insecurity, it's led to a bit of a one-upmanship. It's led to a bit of internal politics. How does a leader deal with it? He's not someone who's very good at dealing with all this, and he was kind of asking me the same question. And I'm sure this is not happening with him, but a few other organizations or people as well. What would be your advice on that?
I mean, my advice in those kind of situations would be actually to think about what are the things that we control in those kind of situations, and then work on them to see whether, there is something that we can do better and something that we can actually, change, or something that we can, continue to hold on to. But if it is really beyond our control, then I won't worry about it too much. And then I would suggest that we wear the other hat, which is to say that then it's a crisis that we need to turn into an opportunity, because that also is something in our control. So you probably may have come in as a messiah of help, because your book and your framework and the tools that you're now offering to people could be of help to people to see what is it that they could do. I mean, I'm yet to read your book, Ashu, but from what I have seen, what I have read so far, the snippets that I'm aware of, I think that that could be a powerful tool for people to use. And to that extent, that it has come out now, maybe very, very timely.
Thanks for saying that, Amitabh. Yeah, I do hope, and I feel that it was not planned to be timed with this, but it's probably very incidental that it's come at the right time where people can take advantage of it. So, and change the lens at how they look at their work and the career today. and it should help them. Um, what's your success mantra, Amitabh? That's something which is very interesting because you said some very interesting things there. But if I were to ask you to summarize, key one, two, or three success mantras you followed in your life, what are those?
I would say, honesty is very, very important, particularly in the specialized function that I deal with. You may not always know everything, but and then you may take time to be able to advise somebody, and then so unless you're honest about how much you know and how much comfort at that point of time you are able to dispense to the other party, it's very, very important. You may say at this point I'm able to give you only so much comfort, but allow me a few more hours, I will try to make you more comfortable. So that is one. The second is of course hard work, and hard work includes not just working like plodding it out, but also working smart, figuring out, anticipating. So again, since I believe that we are in the business of giving comfort, if we were to also anticipate that what are the areas that will reduce the comfort of our stakeholders, and if I'm able to anticipate that, then proactively I'm actually able to give comfort or not let comfort level fall, right? So I think proactivity is very important, and a the underlying of the underlying premise of proactivity is trying to always to the other person's shoes. So empathy, I think, is extremely important, and I think that I have learned to do that. It's not like I always did that, but I have picked it up, and I think that that is something that I have found to be very helpful in this in our roles as being in the business of providing comfort. And finally, I think we have to keep it simple, and we have to have the strength, the fortitude, the courage, the right over the wrong. And I believe, and this has stood me in good stead, and I'm really proud of what I'm going to say, that uh, what is right is right. I mean, just because nobody else is doing it does not mean that it is not right if it is right.
Very well said.
And then just because everybody else is doing it doesn't make it right if it is wrong. So I think that judgment has stood me in very good stead, and I actually believe in it. And I think that that is a mantra that I would always want to uh, take my life with.
Super, super. I think all three, or rather I would say 3.5 things which you said out there, really hit the nail on the head. And I'm sure it's a cue for other people as well to take away a lot.
I'm happy doing what I'm doing today. I am looking forward to, improving myself, becoming a better version of myself with each passing day. I was telling my wife, Kyle, that, I don't think that I have that kind of talent. She has a lot of talent. She has painting, calligraphy, this, and I don't have those things. And I was just sharing with her that, feeling a bit sad about it, that I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't paint, I can't act, I can't do except what I'm doing, and therefore I must be happy with it. So my younger son was overhearing this conversation, and he came out and he said, Papa, you shouldn't think like this. You have a lot of talent. See, you were given the best employee award, your team was the best. So there are a couple of those trophies here and there, and he collected all of them, and he came and told me that you also have talent.
I would give all points to your son for picking those trophies and bringing it to you, because I know you from the industry. You have lots more talent than people would even dwell upon. But more importantly, I think what you just said, very simply and humbly, is that every morning you wake up with thinking about what is the next better version of yourself, what is on your skills, on your personal qualities, or on how you led your last day. And I think that's amazing. I think if we can take that away, one small thing, that if someone wakes up in the morning and says, how am I going to be a better version of myself from yesterday than today? I think this clear one-step increment improvement, in the direction of someone wanting to be who they really wanted to be end of the day. So thank you so much, Amitabh. That's such a pleasure talking to you. I wish you very well, and be safe, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much for sharing your views with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashu. Thank you very much.